on this computer. Okay, everybody, it's nice to see you. Glad you could make it. And we have one of those events, which is an open forum where you get to ask any question that you want. And Scott, the answer man, and myself will try to provide you with the best answers and maybe an occasional video if we can remember where they're at, and have some fun together. So anybody have any stories or any things that they'd like to share with us, or any new people who are on board? Let us know how you found out about the classes. We're curious about it. I'm going to kind of get the gallery view up here. See if I see any new names. I don't see any new names.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
My father is home from rehab, and before that he was in the hospital. He had a diabetic coma, so his sugars were 1100, which is of course really high.
Yes.
And I think what's happened is as he's getting older, he's 85, he's forgetting how to do his own management of his type 2 diabetes, which he has from not eating well. And so now that he's home, I have become the one to do the check the glucose levels and give the insulin. And it's been a crash course on all that because I'm not a medical person,
Yeah.
but I'm learning a lot. And he lives right next door to me. So, he's nearby. I had to show my husband because I can't do the midday one 3 times a day. He doesn't remember how he used to do this for himself. So he's having some cognitive decline. He used to do this for himself 15 years. Anyway, my question is, so he has the short acting insulin, and then he's got the long acting. And I learned today that the short acting is supposed to sort of get you through each of the 3 meals. And the long acting, I thought it was just another sort of prevention and things to keep the numbers okay. But the nurse said it's to help produce the insulin that he can no longer produce. And so my husband and I have been trying to feed him better, and because we don't want him to drive anymore, so because we don't feel he's safe, and we disconnected the propane cooking stove, and he's getting Meals on Wheels. And so there's all these other things. I'm getting his mail, paying his bills and things like that with his money. But anyway, it's been a lot, but I know that diabetes can be reversed with whole food plant-based eating. And we are controlling what's coming in the house, and we're making him healthy food, but it's not whole food plant-based. It's there are fruits and vegetables and grains and stuff, but he can't get off the various things that he likes, which is the ice cream. So we do the no sugar added ice cream, and he can't get off the soda. So we do the no sugar soda, and then the no sugar chocolates, which I know all that's really not good for you, and I know why. But sorry, we're trying our best, and we can't completely make him change. But I just wondered if that's true, that with type 2, if you get to a point, that's probably him calling me right now. If you get to a point where your body can no longer produce the insulin, is that true? Some of it?
Yeah. So some of it is true. But I guess I'll just start, and then Scott, if you want to chime in a moment, and maybe Lisa, our med student, is going to chime in on this. So bottom line, from my point of view, you need to understand the cause of diabetes is the amount of fat that he's getting in his diet. It's going to lead to insulin resistance. So his body may or may not be producing insulin right now. It probably is producing some insulin, and they probably put him on insulin because, he just was out of control. His diet was out of control, and And, you know, they believe that it's the sugar that he's eating. So they encouraged him to eat more fat and animal products and all that, which made it more out of control, and decided to put him on insulin. So you know, depending on what his blood sugars are, if they're less than 300, you said they were 1100 at one time.
That was yeah, that's when we figured out that he probably wasn't doing it right. And he had to go to the ER and the ICU, and
Yeah.
it was a whole big
So,
thing. He was
so the baseline insulin that he gives, the long acting insulin, it lasts for like a 24-hour period of time. Where
what is
the,
it? Even if there's two, are they each 12?
well, it's about 24 hours, the long acting. So you
Okay.
give that as sort of a baseline insulin. And then when people eat food, you add some insulin on top of that. That's traditionally been what's been done. So
Right.
if you're just doing this and you're keeping close track of his blood sugars, you could use just his baseline insulin for a while, forget the regular insulin until you see what his sugars are really doing. And then if they're really spiking up after each meal or whatever it might be, you might consider adding that. You really need to consult with a doctor to make a decision as to how to adjust those medicines. I'm sure they have some sort of record as to what they've advised him. And if he's just been doing this on his own, you don't really know. The safest thing would be not to be giving him regular insulin on top of the long acting insulin initially until you see what's happening with his blood sugars. Then you could take those values, discuss it with the doctor, and make a decision. But if you change his food, which, you know, you say he wants his ice cream, well, um, you have to, this is a risk benefit kind of judgment call. If you want him to live his life and enjoy every meal for the rest of the time he has on the planet, you'll be playing with trying to adjust his sugars and the insulin. It's going to probably drive you nuts. If you say, hey, Dad, this is what you get for dinner, this is what we could get at the store. And, you know, it may not be the healthiest food, even though it is healthy. You may not like it as much as the other foods, but, you know, this is what we were able to get. So here you go. And if you did that, you probably would be able to reduce his insulin way down, maybe even get rid of it ultimately. So this is a decision you have to kind of think about. And we probably need to spend a whole lot more time with you than what I just did. Scott, do you have any input?
I think you covered it pretty well. I would just say if he was in diabetic ketoacidosis with a blood sugar over 1100 and he had been on insulin and he maybe hadn't been taking it, that's pretty good sign he probably isn't really making insulin anymore, at least at the moment. Doesn't mean he doesn't still have some beta cell function left that could be recovered if he was to change the diet drastically. But yeah, I think the key thing is just to have him on the long acting insulin, like Charlie said, and then if his morning fasting sugars before breakfast, if you can get those down at least into the 130 to 150 range with just once a day long acting insulin, that would be a good sign. And then if you check his sugar an hour or two after a meal and it's still going over like 300 or something like that, then you might still need the short acting insulin. I'm assuming it's either regular insulin or Lispro or Aspart. There's different types of short acting, and those Humalog, yeah, Humalog's an analog of short acting. So that one is working in the system for 1 to 3 hours, kind of 1 to 3 to 1 to 4 hours. It's just to control that spike. But that's usually when you have somebody with their A1C, if you're trying to get them from say 8.5% down to say 7%, kind of in the good control, and that's where it's important to use the short acting. If somebody's A1C is like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13%, because their morning fasting sugars are like 300, 400, then it's just mostly important to use the long acting insulin to get your fasting sugars down at least into the 130 to 150 range. And then if you're still having spikes, like I said earlier, then you can use the short acting. But so the short acting is more for, you know, when you're trying to hone in the control even down into the below 8%, 7 to 8% range for the most part. This is with type 2. With type 1, it's a little bit different. But yeah, as far as the diet, is the best you can do with how to feed him. Just, you know, it's I agree with Charlie, do the best you can, but you know, he might need less insulin or maybe no insulin. Only time would tell, depending on how well he's able to eat. But
Thanks. I'll take this. This is the nurse. Thank you so much.
oh, sure.
Okay, and then Lisa, do you have time? Do you have ability to kind of coach Beth a bit on this issue if she wanted to touch bases with you, or is your schedule such that you wouldn't be able to do that?
Today marks officially the first day of winter break, so I have time. I've gotten in contact with Beth before, so she's always welcome, and anyone's always welcome to contact me. And I know she's doing a lot, if I remember, working and taking care of your daughter and your dad. So I commend you for coming and asking your questions and trying to take care of your family.
So Beth, if you felt comfortable and you were able to discuss this issue on a more regular basis every day or every other day, contact Lisa. If she has questions, she'll get in touch with me. We'll discuss it some further and give you feedback, and maybe it will help you out during this transition period of time for you. Okay, she says thanks in the chat.
Just on hold with the nurse because I had another question. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Lisa, thanks. Anybody else? As you see, we can kind of go over any topic that you like, and we'll try to figure it out together.
Well, this is kind of a positive remark from my eye doctor about about plant-based diets and good health. I have my diabetic wellness eye checks once a year, and they've never found anything wrong with my eyes as far as diabetes is concerned. And this last time, a few days ago, I went to see her again for another annual check. And she says there's absolutely nothing wrong with my eyes at 75. They're just as healthy as they can be, except for I have to wear glasses, but everybody does.
Yeah.
So, so I said, well, Hank and I are on a plant-based diet. We've been on it for a year, taking these classes. And she says, so am I.
Really?
So it was really good to have, you know, another doctor besides your regular doctor that's really excited about it. And she tries to tell her patients, it is true that carrots really help your eyes.
Maybe you should tell her about the Eugene. Maybe she wants to join our Eugene plant-based providers if she's plant-based herself. I'm assuming she's here in the area, an ophthalmologist.
Yeah, she's part of Eugene Eye Care or Eugene Eye something or other. She comes out to Cottage Grove. And I told her about them, and she says, well, her second baby's due this coming Friday. So she thinks she'll wait for a few minutes.
Oh, sure.
But
Wow,
she's a
cool.
wonderful eye doctor. So.
Well, after she has her baby, remind us and we'll get in touch with her and invite her. Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Dolly.
Well, you remind people about the tomorrow, the nutrition and medicine tomorrow.
Okay, so you know, you've all heard about this potentially, nutrition and medicine. You all probably know that most doctors don't get much training in nutrition, and food is medicine, and we're trying to change that at Western University of Health Sciences in Lebanon and Pomona. And so we have sessions once a month. They're voluntary, they're not part of the curriculum, in which we invite speakers to come and talk on food as medicine, essentially. And this month's speaker is tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Goes till maybe 7 o'clock, depending on how many questions there are from the students. And we're going to have Scott Stoll, who is the physician founder of the Plantrition Project. And I'm not sure exactly how that got started, but he recognized the importance of food as medicine, and he's been at it, I don't know, do you know how many years, Scott, that he's been dealing with this?
Oh yeah, probably 20 years, probably. He was on the Olympic bobsled team. That was his kind of his background. And then I don't remember the full story of how he got into nutrition, but yeah, he's been advocate and leader for a long time. And he was the head of Plantrition Project. That was the conference that I've been to several times that Eric and I went to in Palm Springs in September. And he was the head of that and the host and everything. But so I actually talked to him there and told him, hey, you're gonna come talk to the nutrition and medicine class in December. And he's like, oh, cool. And he has a lot of things, I'm sure, on his schedule, so busy guy. But yeah, it'll be great. So if anyone, I didn't have the link to it for the newsletter yesterday, so or on Sunday. So if it's on the Facebook group for those of you that are, I posted it there for those of you that are on the class Facebook group. But if you want to go, particularly want to go, and you want the link to it, you can email me and I can forward you the link. Otherwise, it'll be recorded and we'll be able to. I'll post that on the website like I did for the last 3 months lectures. So if you don't want to watch it live tomorrow at 5 p.m., you can I'll have it posted on the website.
And so we're excited about that. And then we're also excited, maybe Lisa can talk to you about her. It's not enough. She doesn't have enough to do with medical school and her clinical rotations and her Facebook interactions. She needs a little bit more to do with her life. So she wants to do a book club. So I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that, what her thoughts are, and see if she can encourage some of you to consider attending, or maybe some of your friends might consider. So carry on, Lisa.
I just not in Oregon and I want to join in on the fun. So I have to do everything virtual and, and so I just try to interject more things. But I've been wanting to start a book club. I'm not a great reader myself and I want to be. So this is also a self-improvement project for me. And I have a Google form that I'll put in the chat just to get some ideas of who's interested, what books people would like to read. I can show, or I can tell you right now, it looks like we're head to head with the Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living and Salt, Sugar, and Fat. So we'll need some tiebreakers. And it looks like we'll probably meet about once a month virtually, and everyone is interested in developing some community and friendship through the book club, in addition to more nutrition knowledge and some motivation and accountability. So we'll start in January when everyone's got their New Year's resolutions going, and we'll just kind of play it by ear and go from there. So if you have questions, you can let me know and I'll put the link in the chat right now. It's also on our Facebook group and in Scott's newsletter.
Speaking of books, I think this might only be for today, but Dr. McDougall has all of his ebooks on his website for 0 cost today. I downloaded several of them.
So is that the website www.drmcdougall.com?
Yeah. And you go to shop and then down to ebooks. And they're all $0.
That's good for those people who are interested in gaining some more information. Dr. John McDougall is one of the people whose shoulders we stand upon, and he is still actively engaged in promoting a starch-based diet, or a plant-based diet, as it turns out. He calls it the starch solution, but he's also kind of transitioning a bit into the importance of transitioning the diet, not for individual health alone, but also for the health of the planet. So thanks for sharing that with us, both of you. Anything else from anyone? I need to go back to the gallery view to see if I can see anybody who has their hand raised, or if anyone wants to share. I think it's Scott, it's Ed Van Sciver, who got us hooked up with the Positive Community Kitchen. Is that
Okay.
correct, Ed? He's shaking his head, yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you.
We actually
Yes, I
met.
do.
We actually met with them, and it was a wonderful experience.
They have a new head of nutrition education. She's got a fancy title, which I can't remember, but she seems very knowledgeable.
Yeah, you talk about Faye? Yeah, her name's Faye.
She just started recently.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she's from Texas, and she was interested, and she said she'd like to learn more from us, and seemed very interested in trying to promote health through food choices.
Yeah, her name's Faye Sofranco. I think she was the manager of nutrition and kitchen operations. That's her title.
Anyway, thanks again, Ed, for getting us hooked up and leading us
Sure.
in that direction. We appreciate it. Okay, what else do we have going on tonight? Any questions about anything that's burning on your mind? Could be a slow night tonight.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I was going to text you earlier. I said we could always, if we have time to fill, if people want to watch a video. We haven't showed the, I don't know if you know where to find it, the Joel Fuhrman one. Usually
I know.
once, yeah.
I know where to
love
find
nutritional
it.
science one. Yeah, it's the one where it says I love nutritional science. That's always a good one.
All right, why don't we play that one then for tonight? Everybody have the book club. If you go to the chat room, Lisa's put that in here. And yeah, I think it would be a fun activity for sure. If the time is right and it works out, I plan on going. Let's see. All right, let me go get Fuhrman. So what do I need to do? I got to share the screen. Have to do that at some point. Then I have to go find that tip videos from my thumb drive here. So let me scroll on over to here. The students tell me it makes them dizzy, or it's just a little bit too much what I have here, but here's the tip class videos. And then I think it's under the first, second, or third. So I'll check under the first, and I'll say, look and see if there's Joel Fuhrman on here. I love nutritional science. I don't think it's on this one. So we'll go to tip 2. It might be there. Not there. Tip 3. Plant-based Ethelston.
I thought I saw it in 2.
Did you?
I think so. Isn't that the third one from the left right there? It's
Oh yeah, there you go.
So good. Thank you. Is that Dolly?
Donna.
Donna, good for you.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, good deal. Here we go. I Love Nutritional Science by Fuhrman. It's a fun one.
Thank you. I love nutritional science. I've had a passion about nutrition since I was young. I remember that my father suffered with medical problems and pains, conditions the medical profession couldn't help him with, and he searched for answers. Finally, he changed his diet, lost 50 pounds, and got well. And in the process of seeing him suffering and searching, I found excitement and developed interest in the subject. He brought 50 nutritional books into the home, and I read them all. Then in the early 1970s, I was on the United States World Figure Skating team, and I got hurt, and I couldn't walk for over a year. And I spent some time in a natural health retreat, watching people get well who changed their diet styles. And I got excited about what I saw. I remember at my sister's graduation party from college, I met an attractive young woman who told me she applied to go to medical school. And I debated with her. I said, what do you want to go to medical school for? Doctors mostly prescribe medications for conditions that are a result of the toxic diet Americans are eating. It's like hitting yourself with a hammer every day and giving your hand a big smash, and then you get swollen and full of pain. And you go to a doctor and get pain medications for it, and the next day you take a big hammer and smack it again. It's the toxic American lifestyle that's resulting in all these diseases, driving people into the doctor's offices. The toxic foods we're eating are the hammer. You won't go to a doctor if you have breathing problems from smoking cigarettes and he gives you a drug to help you breathe better, and you still continue to smoke. That's what Americans are doing. So this young woman said to me, if you're so passionate about this subject, why don't you go to medical school? Why don't you change things? Why don't you help people? You know, I obviously thought about that and said, I got to do that. I quit my job as an executive in my family's chain of shoe stores. I went back to the postgraduate pre-medical program at Columbia after college. I went to medical school, and I'm here to tell you about the excitement, the rewarding experience, and to give you a taste of the things I've seen in the fun I've had. And I want to show you 6 representative cases of people who changed their life to show you the power of a nutritarian diet. But before I do, let me give you maybe a 2-minute overview of what a nutritarian diet is, okay? Because a nutritarian diet is a diet style that's designed to be rich in nutrients and full of antioxidants and phytochemicals. It's a diet style with a high nutrient per calorie density. Your healthy life expectancy is determined on the foods you choose to eat. You have to get sufficient nutrient bang for each caloric buck. But when you do so, when you flood your body with the nutrients it needs, it doesn't just make you healthy and live longer and prevent disease. It stops food addictions and food cravings and normalizes your appetite and makes your body gravitate towards your ideal weight effortlessly. It's the secret for most of what ails us. A nutritarian diet, sure, it's rich in nutrients with an adequate amount of what we need, nutrient-wise, but it also is very different from the style Americans are eating right now. Americans are eating a diet that's really dramatically nutritionally deficient. Americans are eating a diet with 55% of calories from processed and refined foods that don't contain vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals, and 30% of animal products. A diet with less than 5% of calories from fruits and vegetables and natural produce, nutrient-rich produce. Aside from white potato, most of what we eat, we're only eating about 5% of vegetation and produce. It couldn't be better designed to create a nation full of diseases like heart attacks and strokes and dementias and cancer, had it be designed by Al-Qaeda. Besides the fact of what it's lacking, a nutritarian diet is also designed to be low in those hormones that promote cancer and aging. Hormones like excessive amounts of insulin and excessive amounts of IGF-1, that's insulin-like growth factor 1, the primary hormone that promotes cancers like breast cancer and prostate cancer. I say, the whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead. Because the more if you eat foods like sugar and white flour, the more it promotes weight gain and cancer. And I say, the more you eat green, the more you get lean. Because when you eat more greens and beans and less meat, it lowers IGF-1, which stops cancer in its tracks and doesn't promote the progression of fat on your body and cancer cell proliferation. We have a unique opportunity in human history today with the exponential advances in nutritional science that have given us the power of G-bombs, G-B-O-M-B-S. These foods I call our immune system special forces. Greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. These foods that inhibit fat storage on the body. Foods that prevent cancer. Foods that prolong our lifespan. The details of that is not my message or the purpose of this presentation. These people are. Let me show you the power of what a nutritarian diet can do. Here's Robert. I never met Robert. He just read one of my books. Robert was in a wheelchair. Today he can, not only can he not in a wheelchair, he can work all day on his feet. Robert had rheumatoid arthritis and was on 4 highly toxic drugs to reduce his pain from rheumatoid arthritis. Today he has no rheumatoid arthritis. He's off all his toxic medications. He no longer has diabetes. He no longer has heart disease and high blood pressure. He's off those medications too. The main story here is not merely that he lost 200 pounds. The story is that Robert no longer has medical conditions. He no longer has rheumatoid arthritis like millions of Americans do. The point here is you don't have to be sick and be suffering and be tied to medications for the rest of your life. Take Heather. Heather's another person who suffered most of her life. She suffered with terrible headaches, horrible headaches and migraines most of her life. She even took pills that cost $100 a pill for each single individual pill, and she still had headaches all day long. And she suffered, of course, with allergies and insomnia and anxiety and also on multiple medications. And Heather lost 75 pounds. But she wrote, and she said, she wrote me a letter, an email. And she said, I'm all better. I know it's the greatest feeling in the world, never suffer and have headaches anymore. I don't have insomnia. I don't need pills for depression and anxiety anymore. I'm well. I don't have menstrual pain. She said, the wonderful thing is when you fix the whole body, everything gets taken care of simultaneously. It makes you think of all the people that are suffering and have been told they have to be on medications the rest of their life with no way out. And then there's Donna. Donna from Kentucky. Donna's like stories like this I hear 100 times a month. She was in so much pain, she couldn't get out of bed or off the couch. When she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, her rheumatologist told her that she'd have to take these medications for pain for the rest of her life. Of course, Donna got well. She lost 62 pounds in the process. She's feeling well, and she made the effort to take the drive from Kentucky up to New Jersey when I was having one of my weekend immersion programs. She came up specifically to meet me and to talk to me and tell me about to thank me. It's so rewarding and wonderful and warm to meet these people who've recovered their health. She said to me, I was a food addict for 20 years. I tried one diet after another, and I knew I was in a downward spiral I couldn't get out of. Her life was unhappy, and she felt completely hopeless with it. And she said she felt like she was a failure. And I said, Donna, you weren't a failure. It's the information you were given failed you. With the right information, you have the ability to be set free, to take control of your life, to get rid of your food addictions. It's wonderful to meet these people. You almost want to, you see their happiness and their gratitude, and sometimes you can almost feel like your tears come to the eyes when you hear that you're going to hear some of these stories. And here's Ronnie from Texas, a perfect example. Ronnie had heart disease and had bypass surgery about 6 years ago. Within 4 years after his bypass surgery, his vessels clogged up again and got fully occluded with plaque. And then he proceeded to have angioplasty. Within a few months after angioplasty, he developed restenosis, and now he couldn't walk, had tremendous chest pain, was on multiple medications. He was literally sent home to die. I never met Ronnie either. He read my books and he communicated with me through the website. And Ronnie lost 140 pounds in 1 year, which isn't the story. The story is that his chest pains went away. He's now fit, healthy, has no heart disease. He doesn't have high cholesterol. He has great cholesterol and no cholesterol drugs. He has normal blood pressure, not on 3 blood pressure medications like he used to be, but on no blood pressure medications. His weight is normal. He's feeling well. He achieved these numbers to protect himself without the use of medications. That's how we know now he's protected. He truly reversed his condition, and he knows he's protected for his future. The message here is that scientific studies show that angioplasty and bypass surgery don't enable people to live longer. Those who go through those procedures don't live longer than those who don't have those procedures with the same degree of disease. They don't prevent future heart attacks. They're just a temporary Band-Aid to make people feel better for a temporary period of time. Why aren't people told this? Why don't people know? Why doesn't everyone know that they don't have to have heart attacks? They don't have to have strokes, that these diseases are reversible relatively easily. Ronnie was set free. And Jody, from nearby here, right in North Carolina, Jody suffered with psoriasis for many years. By the time, she suffered from psoriatic arthritis, which is like a mixture of psoriasis and rheumatoid arthritis. Involves, the itchy rash over your whole body, plus joint pains. By the time Jody was 50 years old, she had the rash over her whole body, including an itchy rash inside her ears, from head to toe. And she was on multiple medications, including prednisone and Plaquenil and methotrexate, to try to suppress their autoimmune conditions. Autoimmune diseases like this affect 24 million Americans. The most prevalent one is psoriasis, which affects more than 7.5 million Americans. Jody's been well for the last 12 years. She doesn't have psoriatic arthritis anymore. She doesn't have psoriasis anymore. Her skin is clear. By the time she first got diagnosed with psoriasis when she was a teenager, soon after she got diagnosed with lupus, Sjogren's syndrome, and eventually the joint pain of psoriatic arthritis. After being in pain for more than 25 years, being on medications that hardly gave her any relief, she found out how she could finally get well, and she did. I remember we have these health getaways where I take a lot of people on these vacations, and we eat healthy and teach them about nutrition. And Jody came with us to Utah to climb the Red Mountains. And we took a bunch of people, and we walked up this huge mountain, and we got to the top, And it was like a thrill to see the countryside, the beautiful countryside. I've been on top of this mountain. And Jody got to the highest point of that peak, and she put her arms up in the air like a V for victory. And she said, "Look at me, I'm a medical miracle." And I said to Jody, "You know, Jody, I'm so proud of you, but it's not a medical miracle. It's the inherent, self-repairing, miraculous, protective, self-healing machine the human body is already when it's fed optimally. Your body takes care of itself, just like you cut yourself. It's the health that you always had the right to that was taken away from you." And number 6, the last person I'm going to talk about is John Pelikowski. And I bring him up, John from New Jersey, is because my office is in New Jersey, and I saw him as a patient more than 20 years ago when he was 72 years old. And he too had triple vessel disease in his heart and had chest pain where he couldn't walk without significant pain. He actually had worked with a cardiologist, and the cardiologist set him up for a stress test, a cardiac catheterization, and he was scheduled for angioplasty and stent placement. And I pleaded with him, and I convinced him. I said, "John, give me 12 weeks of your life to show you that you can get back in good health again. Because once you put those stents in, you're never going to be the same. It's going to be a source of inflammation. It's going to promote more stenosis and more plaque in your heart. Let's get rid of it. Here's our chance. Give me 12 weeks. In 12 weeks' time, his chest pains were gone. He lost 40 pounds. He didn't have high blood pressure. He needed 3 medications for high blood pressure. That had dropped too. He went back to see his cardiologist. The cardiologist says to him, "Oh my goodness, John, I've never seen anybody reverse heart disease nutritionally. I've never seen anybody have it melt away like this. This is amazing." Can you imagine a cardiologist who does nothing except see patients with heart conditions, never once ever saw a patient reverse their heart disease with nutrition? When that's all I see is every patient get better relatively quickly? You know, the story here with John, what's the story? The story is now it's 20 years later. John's 92 years old. Over the years, he's gotten healthier and healthier. He doesn't have any heart disease now. He chops wood, he climbs up and fixes his roof. He enjoys his life. He doesn't take medications in his 90s that he needed when he was in his 60s and 70s. You follow that? He has normal blood pressure now. He has normal cholesterol now. He's earned these things. He's been well for 90 years. My point is that water runs off the waterfall and hits a rock. And after 20,000 years, the rock breaks in two. But the rock didn't age. It got hit by water day after day for 20,000 years. When you develop the problems that most Americans get those problems because day after day you put stresses on your tissues from eating the wrong foods that we shouldn't be eating, from living a diet style and a lifestyle of stresses that impact you negatively day after day, year after year. This is not the natural consequence of aging. Heart attacks and strokes and dementia doesn't have to happen. We don't have to have heart disease. All of us could be free of that if we so choose. Matter of fact, most cardiologists can then become lawyers and electricians and plumbers. Nevertheless, here's the point. Is my message to you today is that sure, nutritional science has made exponential advances in recent years. I love nutritional science. But the point is, it's not just preventative. Sure, we don't have to have heart attacks, we don't have to have strokes, we don't have to get demented, and yes, we can win the war on cancer. We have the information right now in the studies that show that a body is protective against cancer. We can make these choices and have better health than ever before possible in human history. And my point for today is that nutritional excellence, a nutritarian diet, is therapeutically more effective than medications for almost every medical condition. And the results can literally touch your heart. And that's my message for today. And you know that woman, that pretty young woman who spurred me on to go to medical school back 35 years ago? Well, I married her. And now I've been married for 32 years. I have 4 wonderful children. And I'm on a mission to share the power of nutritional excellence. So wishing you all, you reach your dreams and pursue your passions, and have much happiness and great health always, because it can be yours. Thank you.
That's I've always enjoyed watching that every time. I've seen it quite a number of times. I'm sure Scott and many of you have seen it, but it's sure well worth getting motivated again by listening to it. Any thoughts from anyone?
Well, I thought it was pretty powerful. I really, really enjoyed it. What's his name?
It's Joel Fuhrman, Fuhrman,
Okay.
and
Thank you.
he's MD, and it's on
He used-
YouTube.
And he used the word nutritarian.
Nutritarian. Go ahead,
Okay.
Scott.
That's
Yeah,
a
his,
new one.
his first book was actually, it was the first book I read that was plant-based. So it's called Eat to Live. It was his original book. That's one of his oldest ones, Eat to Live. And then he's got some other good ones too. Fast Food Genocide. I think that was the last one of his I read. But I've read several of his books over the years.
The name is spelled Fuhrman, not Furh.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else have any thoughts? Especially if you haven't seen this before. Yes, Lynn. Oh, that's my hand in there. It's not in your.
Charlie, I read the book. I'm
Did
convinced.
you?
Yes. I'm
And
on
what'd
my
you, Trouty,
on-
what'd you
I'm-
think?
I'm on my 9th book and I'm thoroughly convinced I would never go back to anything else. No. And my blood pressure is down as well, you know, and of course I lost the weight and I don't have any, any problems. But
So anybody who's transitioning, having any struggles, look to Trouty and get some inspiration from what she just said.
yeah, I had the open heart surgery and I had the fat in the blood and so on. And yeah, it just, I had 1 bypass and I don't want nothing to do with it anymore because I know where it came from. Because my cardiologist said, in order to lose the weight, you need to eat a lot of eggs, a lot of meat, and a lot of, exactly the opposite. And I thought he's trying to make money on me. But I took a different cardiologist and they did the job, you know, but they did not tell me about this diet either. I just happened to come across from somebody else in the congregation, you know. So other than that, I would not have known. But yeah, I would never go back on it, no. Even the oils, I'm very, very careful. When I fry anything, I do only a teaspoon of olive oil, no more than that. And I don't fry every day anything, no. And sometimes I use water or the juice of the plants. So yeah, it's a total change.
Well,
And
we're happy for you. The juice of the plants is vegetable broth, I think, is another name for it. I like that.
yes.
The juice of the plants. I'm going to remember that, share that with the med students sometime. It's good. Really. All right.
I also read Fuhrman's book a while ago, and G-bombs is something that I remember, and I try to eat them every day. I do hit the greens, onions, and mushrooms at least,
Uh-huh.
and I love berries, so that helps too.
Well, if you don't do the beans, you might do the lentils. or
Yeah.
edamame?
Yeah, I eat those, but not every day, but I try.
Okay, they're healthy. Thank you, Linda. How about you, Marcia?
What was that about the plant, the juice of the plant or something?
Yeah, the juice of the plant is vegetable broth. If you want to, instead of sauteing in oil or using oil to fry, you use water or vegetable broth, or actually the juice of the plant.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Charlie,
I
this
got-
is the book I'm reading right now.
Food remedies. Very nice. The doctor's book of food remedies.
And it's all planned. And how to cure different diseases about with different plants. But they do have meat in there, and I just don't underline any of that because I read it, but I know it's wrong. So yeah, even cheese, I don't eat any of that. No dairy, no nothing, no eggs. And I was wondering that I don't have hypoglycemia, but I don't. So it's a miracle. I don't know why this doesn't happen, because I have had it before in Tucson, Arizona, that I had hypoglycemia so bad I could barely walk. And now with the plant diet, no problem. So yeah.
Well, that's a wonderful testimonial that you have, and I hope others take it to heart and try it for themselves completely, or whatever they're able to do.
But I read the books in order to keep myself going, not that I get back again and get weak with it. So yeah, I refresh it all the time in different books like that.
That's great.
And I can read it slower than I do a video. Videos go too fast for me. So with the books, I can mull it over and keep it in my mind.
You should definitely join Lisa's book club then. You'd be perfect for it.
Yeah.
No. I have
All right, Ed.
Which Fuhrman has several books. Which one would you recommend to start with?
Probably Eat to Live, which is the first one. That's what I'd recommend. So I've read several other ones, but that would be the one. It's kind of the
Eat for Life or Eat to Live?
Eat
called
to
Eat to
Live.
Live.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the one I read. Yes.
Just like the starch solution for Dr. McDougall, that's like his original, and then or most famous one. And then Dr. Greger's probably How Not to Die. Dr. Esselstyn's Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. That's kind of the classics for each of those people. Other questions people have? Any topic? Also a poll, how are people planning to join us when we start over? And that's only 3 weeks away, believe it or not, but January 3rd is only 3 weeks away. It's going to be 2023 before we know it here.
I'm planning on starting with you in January and going through the whole thing. I'm slow to move over to the total plant-based, but I am doing it. I mean, I am getting more convinced and more convinced. And it's just a matter of letting my brain figure out what to plan for dinner and where to go get the food, and to be proactive enough and get it ahead of time. I have moved away from meat, and I've moved away from all processed foods, and I've moved away from all sugar. So I've made some big leaps, but
Yeah, wow. That's
I
great.
still stick with the fat. I mean, I know like today I had a whole grain muffin with peanut butter on it. So, and as soon as I ate it, I thought, well, I'm eating fat, and but it's just a matter of swapping.
Yeah,
And
I can think
you
of a lot
know-
of worse things you could have been eating than
Oh,
a whole
yeah.
grain muffin and a
One
peanut
of the-
butter. That's
One of the
great.
things that hit me, and I've done it for all my life, I've done this all my life, all my adult life, is all of a sudden, like 3 days ago, I thought, oh, I probably shouldn't be drinking this orange juice every day.
Mhm.
And so then I started looking, well, what can I drink that doesn't have all the sugar? And then today I was reading, you shouldn't really have any orange juice, any fruit juice, because so maybe water with lemon. So now I got to figure out that. So I'm just on a journey trying to figure out what to swap out.
So Donna, do you understand that eating the whole fruit
Yeah,
in its natural state, what you get in that compared to eating the juice of the fruit? What's
right.
the difference? Do you know what is
Well,
missing?
I think it's just, it's how fast it metabolizes, isn't it? How fast it turns to sugar in the body.
So that's partially correct. The fruit, as it's grown in nature, has fiber, has
Okay,
many
right,
nutrients, and
Mhm.
that fiber is hooked up with the sugar, so it gets
Right.
released slower. So you're right about that. It doesn't get absorbed as quickly. But the main issue with juices is they usually strip away a lot of the fiber, which is that's the deficiency in the American diet,
yeah,
in the
yeah.
diet around the world. So, juice would probably be healthier than wine or alcoholic beverage, but not as healthy as just eating the whole
Right.
food itself.
The purpose of the juice, that has a purpose, and that is that in the morning I take my vitamins. And so and water is just boring.
Yeah, so water's boring. So we do tea. I don't know how many other people do tea.
Uh-huh.
But there are different herbal teas.
Yeah, and do you do them cold?
I
It doesn't
do
matter.
it
as
hot.
well.
My wife does hot,
Uh-huh. Okay.
and but I let it cool off, and it tastes just as good after
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I made a pot of an herbal tea one day. I'm not a big tea drinker, but it sounded really good, and I made a pot of it. And then I ended up pouring the pot in a pitcher and keeping it in the fridge a couple days, and I would have a glass of that iced herbal tea, which was very tasty. Yeah. So I could do that.
Yeah, so
That's a good idea.
yeah,
So I have a question.
go ahead, Velvet.
Wouldn't it be for her getting away from orange juice, like maybe even juicing some of her own oranges just to have that when she wants it? It's better than buying store-bought orange juice with sugar.
So when you're talking about juicing,
I mean, I know the
are you
fiber.
talking about blending, or are you just grinding up the whole food and leaving it in the dish? Or are you talking about
Yeah, I
stripping
know.
away and throwing away the fiber?
I understand what you're saying, but just for transitional purposes. So then she can have that orange juice that she likes every once in a while. It's better
Well,
than buying store-bought.
Yeah,
Well-
I'm surprised at myself that I'm finding no difficulty in making swaps. I have been very, very fortunate. I don't know why I'm not resisting the swapping of one food for another. As long as I know I have something to go to, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. And the orange juice, I could do apple juice, I could do grapefruit juice, I could do anything, but they all have sugar in them. And so I think I could get unsweetened. But again, I think I like the idea of doing a tea or doing just lemon, you know, in water or something, so.
So Velvet,
Yeah.
you may be referring to an unsweetened juice as opposed to a
No.
sweetened.
I'm talking about just taking oranges and juicing them to yourself. Just a
And
couple. So then
leaving leaving all that fiber and
I know,
behind.
I know, but for transition.
No, what I
purposes-
would do is I would juice the orange. I would drink my juice, get a taste of it, and then I would go ahead and eat the rest of the orange because I love
Yeah.
it so much.
Yeah. So, okay. So what would Dr. Greger have to say
Oh,
about
Charlie.
about that kind of maneuvering? What would he say? It would be similar to his comments about smoothies. If you're gonna crush up the fruit, or you're going to absorb that sugar much faster. So rather than gulping it down in 2 to 5 minutes, you should at least spread out the eating experience to 25, 30 minutes. Who's going to do that is the next question. Have you ever taken 25 minutes to drink a smoothie? I know I never have.
I take like 2 hours to drink my smoothies. I
Well,
don't know
then,
what's wrong with me, but I cannot drink a smoothie fast.
well,
It's
then,
like-
then according to Greger, you're doing well.
That's good.
But I don't know how many people who can do smoothies over.
I mean, but my smoothies are rather huge. They're not, little tiny baby smoothies either. They are my breakfast.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments about this? Any thoughts?
Can I say something? With the diet, you have to get used to it. It's not going overnight. You have to transition till finally you got it. And then stick with it. Let nothing ever, let nobody else tell you anything when you know it's right.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yes, it is. It was with me, not overnight. I had to adjust a little at a time, go back a little bit. But even if you go back and do something that you shouldn't, don't worry about it. Just go back again to your original diet, and, pick up. Just like a little kid, when they fall down, they get up again. So the same thing with us. When we mess up, we pick up again and we go on. We don't let it bother us.
Yeah.
Well, they never said it was going to be, but they said that.
I think one problem for me comes when I'm kind of the matriarch of a big family, and they all come and they come to me for Christmas, they come to me for Thanksgiving, and so I'm responsible for providing all the foods that they're used to having, which I'm fine doing, but I'm also gravitating away from a lot of that. And I don't eat the same things they eat anymore. And so just knowing how to blend it all together so it's not, I don't know, so it's a little more smooth.
It's much harder if you have a whole family not supporting you. And I live by myself, and it's easy. It's much easier. I don't have nobody to interfere with it. So you have to deal with that and don't knock yourself down if things go wrong. They don't go right away. But stick with it, what you think is right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may have them bring a dish, like have everyone do more potluck style. Everyone brings a dish. Then you can make your plant-based dishes, and then you'll have something to eat when they're there, and then they can try them if they'd like, and then if not, they can eat the foods others bring. That's kind of what we do in my extended family, because some of us eat plant-based and some of us don't. So we all bring the food, and then we kind of have our own, build your own plate, build your own bowl, build like a potato bar, a pasta bar, salad bar, burrito bar, whatever kind of theme. Of course, if it's holidays, it's usually kind of buffet anyway for most bigger families. Everything's all spread out and you can just dish up what you want. And so that tends to work pretty well when there's lots of different dietary requirements.
Right.
I was going to just add, I went plant-based a couple of years ago, and we have some holidays where we do potluck and people bring kind of our traditional dishes that we've always had that are not plant-based. But last Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve, and then this year Christmas Eve, it was at my house, and I hosted, and all my family and grandparents and all our kids came, and I just cooked plant-based. I made a vegan lasagna and Brussels sprouts and a nice salad, and nobody even really commented. The first time I did it, I had a pork roast that somebody brought, which was fine, but I realized that nobody would have missed it if it wasn't on the table. Everything else was delicious, and even the desserts, and so it worked out fine. It was just different foods, but everybody was happy to have something, and I just didn't make a deal of it, and it was just all really good and accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's just trying new things.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. Great advice.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
And our third class is meal planning. So we'll have my introduction, Charlie's introduction, and then the third class in January will be a meal planning class. And I'll go over the website and all the different links to cookbooks and meal plans and other recipes and things like that. And then I think I'll also a lot of people bring up their ideas of some of that, of how they do meal planning and grocery shopping and all that stuff. So we try to have that early on for the newer people.
I have a question. Is it bad when you drink just plain water, faucet water, instead of distilled water? I'm kind of worried about the plastic that leaches into the water. Sometimes the water actually tastes bitter. Is it better to drink the faucet water instead of the distilled water?
I know I drink the faucet water. I've been doing that for years, and oftentimes there's a little fluoride, which has been helpful in reducing cavities. And distilled water has no minerals connected with it. I use distilled water when I'm checking my pH meter.
I'm sure she's
or using it in the iron for my wife's iron.
I'm sure Charlie, I'm sure she's referring to bottled water, not distilled water. Distilled water is dangerous to drink. You should never drink distilled water because it doesn't have it's too hypotonic. It's actually could be dangerous to your health to drink distilled water. So it's bottled water still has minerals and trace chemicals and things in it. But it's if you use BPA free, it's probably relatively safe. But for the environment, we'd say try to avoid bottled water. I just if you have a purifier or something and you're worried about contaminants and things, then just a good old fashioned either like a Brita water filter, or if you have a water filter on your refrigerator, that's what I drink. Just tap water, but it just comes through a water filter on the refrigerator. That's what I drink. But yeah, no one should drink distilled water. That's like, yeah, you use it in like CPAP machines and certain situations, but that's not intended to be consumed.
Yeah, I drink bottled distilled water, but I'm trying to get rid of it because of plastic. I read something about how much plastic we ingest through all kinds of containers and so on, and it leaches into the food.
Well, I would agree with Scott that you buy BPA free bottles and you should be fine.
But what I do right now, I take glass containers and put the plastic, pour it in the glass, put a scarf, something over it, and have it like that. But it still comes out the plastic bottles, and they sit there on the shelf in the store. So it's in there.
Yeah, all plastic is not the same. Plastics are made differently, and some have BPA, and many don't, most don't, I think, at this point, but you have to just read the labels.
I heard Scott say it's dangerous to drink distilled water, so I would encourage you to read the label of the water and make sure it does not say distilled.
And I
Because
think there's some products that say distilled drinking water, which is, considered, I think it's not 100%. I mean, it's just if it's medical grade, like if it's actually says distilled water that's used for medical purposes or like CPAP machines and different things, because you're trying to keep minerals out of it. Just if people drink large amounts of distilled water, it's actually not good for you because it's too, it's a chemistry term. Hypotonic just means it's too sterile. It doesn't have, if you're going to drink a lot of that, it's going to actually pull electrolytes from your body to make urine, to filter through your kidneys, so it can actually make you get a net loss of potassium and sodium and chloride and all magnesium and all these other trace minerals that are in water naturally. Because think about water, natural waters has all these different trace minerals because it goes through the soil and everything. So
if you're living in the Eugene Springfield area, you're drinking some of the purest water in the country from your tap. You shouldn't worry about it. We're drinking mountain snow melt, and it's wonderful, and it's very good for you. So I would encourage you to drink what comes out of the faucet.
Thank you. I will do that.
Thank you.
yeah, it definitely depends on where you live. Yeah, Eugene is great. Eugene has really, really good drinking water. But yeah, sometimes people at the class are not from here, so there are places where it's not so safe to drink tap water.
Linda, you had your hand up, or maybe you just talked.
Oh, that was me. I figured I'd just chime in.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That was great. Okay. Who else has something they'd like to add or inquire about?
I don't have anything to inquire about, but I've been dying to share this.
Okay.
I went to Turkey I don't know how many years ago with my husband, and we had a Turkish guide who had a very, very educated man, actually taught archaeology in Texas, but he was a Turkish man. He lived there in Turkey now. And everything was vegetable. That's how you pronounce the vegetable, vegetable, no syllables, accent. And it became my favorite word. Vegetable dies and vegetable this. So you're on a vegetable diet.
Yeah, very good. That's pretty cute.
Yeah. It's been one of my favorite memories.
Thanks for sharing that.
I have a little question.
Sure, Nancy.
Okay, I was in a holistic wellness class this week, and some people were talking about the benefits of taking enzymes like bromelain and papain. And I just wonder if you have any thoughts about who would actually need additional digestive enzymes, and does anybody take them? I mean, this is something I don't know anything about, but I'm curious if you have any comment.
Yeah, if you had pancreatitis and knocked out your body's own enzymes that are digestive enzymes, then perhaps that might be helpful. Maybe if you've had a bypass procedure, which is kind of bypassing some of that, although I don't think so much. But generally speaking, I think that most people probably don't require that. What's your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, same thing. And it's it's always in the context of who's the audience, who, like whenever we do studies on benefits of certain things, you have to keep it into context of what's the target audience. And if somebody, their body is unhealthy because they're eating the standard American diet and living the standard American lifestyle, then maybe some of those things have some benefit. But it's kind of like the analogy I always go back to is like, if the house is on fire, you could turn on a few garden hoses and shoot the garden hoses at the house fire, but it's not going to put out the fire. And so but the equivalent of a whole food plant-based diet with exercise and sleep and stress reduction and social support and all the things we talk about, that's the equivalent of the Junction City water tower. And that's dumping the Junction City water tower on the house fire. It's going to put that fire out. So then you don't have any, once you do that, you don't have a need for the garden hoses anymore, right? And so it's kind of like, there are some exceptions with different things, but I think that's a good theme to kind of remember when we're thinking about different things we read about or hear about or friends or family talk about. What about adding this, or what about this supplement, or what about this therapy? It's like, well, I think about it all the time when I talk to patients every day about medications and things like that. It's like, well, this study shows that it reduces your risk of this problem by this much percent. It's like, well, that's assuming you're eating the standard American diet. So if you can get somebody to really focus on whole food plant-based nutrition and lifestyle medicine, then those things, yeah, they still have they still are worth a discussion, but they have a totally different meaning than they would if you were still eating the standard American diet, living the standard American lifestyle.
Okay, thank you. I thought that would be the answer, but it kind of came out of the blue. I didn't know anything about it, so I thought I'd bring it up. The other thing in that conversation, somebody reported a study that said taking vitamin C or some heavy vitamin C loaded food is essential when you're eating protein, so whatever your protein is for that meal, in order to increase the bioavailability of collagen. Does that make any sense?
Well, vitamin C is one of the cofactors. I mean, it's vital in forming collagen, which is why when people get would get scurvy, their gums bleed and hair falls out and all that, because you need vitamin C to make collagen. And so if you don't, if you get insufficient vitamin C, you can't make collagen or hold collagen together. So if you're eating lots of whole plant foods, you're getting plenty of vitamin C, so you don't really need any extra vitamin C. So I guess I don't know if that's what you mean.
Yeah, it was the relationship between, I think they weren't talking about a specific protein, but I'm sure it applies as easily to soy as anything else. The idea that there was an interaction, that protein couldn't be adequately used by the body without vitamin C being present at the same time.
So,
and I had never heard that.
So Dr. Greger uses this analogy. He says, or he uses this phrasing: the body is not stupid. It holds on to the nutrients that it needs. And we used to believe way back, in the 70s, you had to combine beans and rice to get complete protein.
Well, I remember that conversation we had earlier in the year. Yeah,
right.
I think I asked that question.
And I think this is on par with that.
Okay.
Having vitamin C throughout at some points during the day, you will be able to get an adequate amount of protein without you having to physically eat them at the same time. Now, with that being said, iron is absorbed better if you're eating something with vitamin C at the same time you have iron. So that works, but I've not heard that you have to eat vitamin C with protein. But with iron, it can be helpful to improve anemia.
Okay, I do like always to know what combinations you you do want to put together or specifically don't want to put together. So good. That's a tidbit I didn't have. Thank you.
Welcome.
And collagen is just an example of a protein. It's, proteins are just chains of amino acids put together to make certain things. So cell walls and collagen and hormones and all kinds of things.
Yeah, it was kind of in the context of tissue repair, skin, that sort of thing.
I have a historical anecdote that you might find interesting. The origin of the term limey, referring to a British person. On one of his voyages, Captain Cook stopped off on coastal Africa for stores and got a deal on 10,000 lemons. And then he had many fewer deaths from scurvy on that voyage. They didn't make a clear distinction between lemons and unripe lemons and limes back then. So that was the origin.
The sailors were limeys, and that kept them from getting scurvy. Yep.
Yeah.
I was just reading that the other day.
All right. Anybody else? We've been having fun. We almost made it another full hour and a half. We're short 6 minutes, but we don't have to drag the meeting out. We have what, 1 or 2 more ventures before next year?
Yep, 2 more.
2 more. Okay, well, we'll maybe get another video for next week, unless we have more questions. So think them up, and we'll be happy to discuss them with you.
These are for you guys, and 'cause I always feel bad when we have 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row where Charlie and I are just doing a presentation, more formal presentation, PowerPoint or whatever, and which is what it'll be when we do our introductions. And so I always feel bad when I'm doing those, because I feel like I'm taking over, not giving you guys enough time to ask questions and things. But that's where these open forums are for you guys, just to bring up whatever you want to talk about.
I take
Dolly here. This Thursday, Hank goes to see the cardiologist for the first time. He finally got an appointment for the AFib, and I'm sure he'll have some questions to ask next week.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yes, it will. It will be fine.
Thanks.
Atrial fibrillation is a common problem. There are more and more people with it. It's a irregular heart rate, and there's oftentimes medicines connected with slowing a heart rate and keeping your blood thin and those sorts of things. So it is.
Did put him on Eliquis to thin his blood.
Yeah.
He's on that, but we were surprised that there was any heart problem at all, because we've always associated it with bad eating habits, standard American diet, that kind of thing. But I guess it's more electrical.
Correct. Yeah. There is some documentation, some evidence that it does have partially to do with blood flow, capillary blood flow in the heart, but mostly it can happen, when you get pneumonia or have some other stress on the body. It can happen, and so it can even happen in fairly healthy people as they get older still too. So that has to do with how large the heart muscle is and different things, and maybe damage that had been done years and years ago. So the arrhythmia in and of itself is electrical. So it's not a plumbing problem; it's an electrical problem. But it still it affects your quality of life and things, and so needs to be treated and addressed.
Another new journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people have it and do quite well with it. So He should do fine. Anybody else?
I take biotin for my hair, but I noticed that my doctor was saying it messes up my blood tests. Why does it do that?
Yeah, it's especially thyroid. So if you're get your
yes.
thyroid checked and you're on thyroid supplementation, you can't take biotin at least 3 days before the blood test because I'm not sure what the mechanism is.
Yes.
It does mess it up. Yeah.
Why does it do that? I don't
Yeah, I don't
understand.
know. I don't know what the
know
mechanism
either.
is, but it just does. Yeah.
Lisa, do you know?
I'm recalling a picture of biotin inhibiting one of the pathways where it's making thyroid stimulating hormone or one of the pathways for that.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Well, in that case, does it interfere with the thyroid if you're taking it on a regular basis?
No, it doesn't. My doctor said it doesn't. It's not a problem for me. It's a problem for the people that analyze it. They can't analyze it right.
It's only the test. It's not having a side effect on you.
No, it's
related to thyroid.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it falsely elevates the thyroid stimulating hormone blood test. So it's like, it doesn't mean your thyroid's off. It just means, okay, we can't trust if you're on thyroid medication and we're checking the TSH and it's off. If you've taken biotin within 3 days of the blood test, we can't necessarily trust the blood test. We have to have you stop the biotin for 3 days, recheck it, and then we can trust the blood lab.
So are there, oh, go ahead.
He also said that it does not affect anything that comes with, if there's biotin in the fruit and vegetables, it does not affect the lab, but it only does it with the artificial one when you take the pill. And I have to take it leave it 5 days off. But now since I don't have anything right now, I'm taking it. But before I have the test, then I have to keep it completely off for them to know to analyze it, not for me. The doctor said for me that was okay. It would not affect me, but it affects them. The test would be affected by it.
All right.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Got a quick question.
Yes.
The G bomb. Let's review the G bomb. Is the first G grain?
Greens and garlic. We put that in there too when we did the cancer class. We talked about the G bombs there too, and that was greens and garlic. So it's greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds.
Thanks. Well, I got your attention. What's the big deal about celery root? I don't know. I just see it as some kind of healthy thing. Anybody know anything about celery root?
I don't. Sounds like more fiber to me.
Just
well,
eat celery.
I kind of like it. It's just a really strong celery taste. I like it.
Oh,
it's just that it's dirty. Maybe I don't have to take B12 that day.
Yeah, there you go.
We ate it a lot in Germany, but I do not know the reason why, but I didn't like the taste of it. But I like the celery sticks, and I cook them and I use them as a vegetable.
Well, they are green, right?
Yes, they're green.
They're a leafy green, I hope. Anyway, thanks everybody. Have a great weekend.
All right.
I'm looking
everybody
forward
until next week. It's been fun. Scott, thank you.
All right. Thank
Lisa.
you. Good night.
Good night,
Thanks, everybody.
everybody.
Good night.
Right.